Hey y'all, Kirk here with Space Pickle Designs, and today we have another bargain bead box blitz, and this time it is earrings. I always love to start with earrings because it is the best way to get a little bit of inspiration for the designs yet to come. So I want you to vote down below 1, 2, 3, or 4. Let me know which one was your favorite, and if you'd like to know how to make any of these designs, then just keep on watching. So our first pair is going to be some of these funky organic ginkgo pendant earrings, and I have a 5-inch piece of 20 gauge German style wire. And the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure that my edge is blunted. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to take my wire on the very edge, or the very end part of my plier, and I'm going to turn a loop this way until they meet. So this is what I have. And so then I'm going to break the neck. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want my loops to be the same on both sides. And so now I have a loop that my pendant can go on and swing freely. Okay. And they are the same on both earrings. So this is my front side. Because I did close, you can see that the opening right there is the back side. And so this is the front side. So if I'm looking at this other earring and I'm looking at the front side, what I want is the curve to go this way, okay? And so what I do is just feed on my beads first. And I got a small gold spacer, an opal crystal, a small gold spacer, an opal crystal, a small gold spacer, an opal crystal, small gold spacer, opal crystal, and a gold spacer. Now at this point, I just want to make sure I'm on the back side here. Okay, so you just start gently making that curved shape with your fingers. And this is really so that you can make that shape. And you want to make sure that your wire is not curved. You want to be able to make that shape, and then you're able to compare it to your other earring. So the first one's going to be kind of like freestyle, and then you have this one. And you just want to make sure the curve is about the same before you start with your wire wrap. So I'm just making it a little more severe. And at this point, I am going to bump it up a little bit. And I'm going to actually curve it back on itself just a touch. Okay. And so at this point, I want to make a decent size loop, not as big as the one on the bottom, but we're turning it, and I will be doing a wrap loop just so we can kind of fill in that space. And so we want to make sure that we know what is our front side. It's going to be this side, so we want to make sure that we put those loops towards the back part of the piece. Just be neat about it. Okay, so then we can kind of match up our earrings just a bit. You just make sure the curve is about the same. So you make sure you see your back, and you have your ear wire. And I chose a lever back because these are a little off balance, but that's like what makes it cool. Because if you make the loop big enough, the ginkgo is going to hang like straight down like that, And I just think it's really cool. It's like almost a suspension type earring. So you can either wear them like this or like this, however you think will complement your face shape the most. And so those are our first pair of earrings. So the next pair of earrings we're gonna make is this odd but beautiful little fella right here. And I'm loving the asymmetry of this one and the sparkle and the color and really everything about it. And so I'm gonna take another 5-inch piece of wire and I'm gonna go probably 1/3 away from the edge. And I'm just gonna spin it around until we are left with this kind of shape. All right, so we just spun it around our pliers a couple times. Sorry, I was having a little bit trouble focusing, and so what I just did is I took it and I spun it around my pliers a couple times until we have this shape. So there's 2 loops on the top there and then 1 on the bottom. And so they are a little asymmetric, which is okay. That's what we want. Unless you want to make them completely symmetrical, then just go in the middle, and you definitely have enough crystals to do that. So for the long side, we'll start with a gold spacer and 9 crystals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, another gold spacer, and then from here I hold my beads, and then I'm probably gonna cut, I'm gonna leave just that much. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to make our head pin. And so I'm gonna do an outward loop, or not a loop, but like I'm gonna turn it this way out towards the side of the piece, and then I'm gonna take my pliers and squish it down. So by me squishing the end on itself like that, that provides a little bit of too much thickness to where the beads are not gonna fall off. Now you don't have to worry too much about this shape right now. We're gonna go to the shorter side, pick up a golden spacer, and then 5 crystals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have another golden spacer. And again, we are going to cut off and leave just the tiniest bit, probably a 1/4 inch. And again, by turning the loop out, because I want them to be some, done in the same way. And you just squish this part here. And I find doing it at the base of your pliers helps. Right there. Make sure it is facing outward when you're looking at it towards the front. And I like to curve it in a little bit so we're not disrupting that flow. So I'm gonna do the same thing on this one to where it's a continuation of the shape. Now I have my shape over here and I'm just gonna mirror it. So we're just gonna use our little fingers. And then this one needs a lot of shaping. Just make sure you're not doing any kinks or, weird movements with it to where you bend it in not a smooth angle. And so here's that component. So I'm just gonna manipulate this loop just a little bit. Again, we're gonna take a look. So I want mine mirrored. So this is the front of the first one. And this will be front of the second one. So they're like this. And again, you just wanna move your piece a little and make sure it's like laying flat. So for the dangle, it's really simple. I'm gonna take, I don't know, 2 inches, 2.5 inches of wire. I'm gonna blunt my end. And I'm gonna still do that head pin technique, just taking that very little tiny bit of wire back in on itself, taking it to the base of my pliers, like that. It's really at the base, and we're just gonna squeeze. So this tiny little guy is going to be enough to be a head pin, and it's very discreet. So I got one of the, like the smooth bead caps, one of our really cool sage beads here, another bead cap, and you know me, you guys, what am I gonna do? Simple loop. I mean, I did a wrap loop in the last one, aren't you proud? So I'm gonna cut a little bit more and make our little loop here, nothing serious. And so I'm going to attach it with the opening towards the back of the piece. Just keep those consistent. And then, because this loop is so large, you can share it with our ear wire. So again, I just like to keep those open bits towards the back of the piece. And so this is a little component that you can use a lot of different types of beads on. I wanted to showcase those really cool green ones while also providing a little bit of sparkle. And by little, I mean a lot, but it's like, it's not too much, it's not too formal, because you still have that earthy green color. And so here is the second, here are the I guess it is, here is the second pair of earrings. English is hard, y'all, okay? Especially for somebody with a West Virginia education. Got it. All right, so here's number 2. All right, so for the third pair, we're going to make these earrings. I thought, of course, if it's an earring blitz, we have to use the unique earring component that came in the box. And I wanted to use some of the chain as well, give it a little bit of disturbance in texture when it comes to, we've got the smooth, we've got a little bit rough, and now we've got like chunky in the middle. And so, yeah. This technique can work with bracelets, and so mainly we're just looking at how we're gonna do this middle bead here, so it's like a lot going on. But I have a tiny piece, probably 1.5 inches of wire. I'm just gonna make a tiny, simple loop. Okay, and from there we can attach our component. It's a very shallow hole. It's very close to the edge of the component, so you can make a pretty small loop and it still hangs very freely, which I appreciate. I'm gonna put on a gold spacer. And then I have 2 lengths of 7-link chain. So here's a length of 7, another length of 7, a length of 6, and then a length of 6. So 2 7s and 2 6s. What we're then going to do is put on our glass crackle bead, and now we go about looping the chains back over itself. And so I'm just going to go in order backwards. So the chain closest to this bead here, let's see if I can show that. The chain closest to the bead is a 6-link chain. And so I take another piece of wire, and if you're a knitter, then we're kind of going to do the knitting thing. And what I mean by that is, like, you can cross your needles over and then you're just casting off into the other needle. And I find that this is the easiest way to do it. I've been fooling with this for like an hour or so because I just wanted to try to find a good technique. So the next one in line is also a 6-link chain. Again, we're gonna cross over and kind of cast off like that. The next one is a 7-link chain. And so here we are. Cross over, cast off. And then I'm rotating the piece because I want to take this last chain and kind of put it on the other side. They will move around, so it doesn't really matter too much, but it's just more surface area that I can cover. So we're gonna cross the needles, cast off, and there's how you put on your chains. I'm gonna close that with a little golden spacer. I'm gonna make that nice and snug. I'm just gonna do a simple loop. Now I wanna look at the bottom of my piece and make sure that I'm making the end of the simple loop where the open end is going to be towards the back, which is the same as the bottom part of the triangle, or not the triangle, the half circle. All right. So we make sure that our loops are facing the exact same way. And then we attach our super cute earring finding. And I want to ask this question, and I'm not clowning anybody, honestly. Either my earring backs that they sent earring backs in the pack, and they're like these really nice golden ones, like this. They do not fit. I cannot get them on. So I don't know if I just got a different batch or whatever. So I pulled out some rubber ones, which I actually prefer the rubber ones or the silicone ones. I guess there's probably silicone ones to the metal ones. And so I put that on the back there. And now we have this really cool textured earring, a little bit unexpected. This week, or last week in our Patreon video, we played around with placements of chain and how that looks and metallic components. And so if you'd like to see more tutorials like this, more weekly inspiration, go ahead and join that Patreon if you have the means to do so. I will always post free content here for you guys. Always, always, always. I truly believe in that. But if you are able to give, you're in a place in your life where you can give $5 a month, then you have access to 4 extra tutorials a month. So thank you to all my Patreon subscribers. It means the world to me. So this is number 3, y'all, okay? Number 3. All right, so for the next earring, I'm gonna take 10 inches of it's S-Lon, and this is a 0.5 millimeter twisted nylon cord. And I'm going to go and put this through my ear wire, and I'm gonna match up the ends, and I'm going to make a knot. Okay, I made my first knot. I'm going to make my second knot. And if you've worked with this material before, you will know that it's not gonna wanna stick. It's not like wax cotton, right? If you jiggle it a little bit, it will come loose. And so I pull the knots tight like this, okay? And then I just put a little bit of GS Hypo Cement, and yours will be much more accurate than mine. My tip did come off, and so I am just taking a little piece of scrap wire and rubbing that Hypo Cement into the knot. And so I will let this dry. I'll hang it up like this, let it dry, and then we will continue to our next step. All right, so this is just an extra tutorial, a bonus, if you will. You know, we always like bonuses. We always like getting something for free, okay? And so I was just playing around with the idea of doing a knotted nugget earring. And so we are going to do that asymmetric effect where it's shorter on one side and then longer on the other. I feel like if you have two strings and you make them identical, then it just looks weird. And so if you're using two strands and you make them offset, it flows a lot better. And so with nuggets, obviously we are using organic material. So they are going to be varied when it comes to how they look. So they're not going to look identical, right? And so I picked 5 beads that look similar to the ones that I picked for the first earring. And so we have our component here. I have went ahead and strung one of the nuggets, and I'm going to pretty much knot it right at the base of the earring or the ear wire. And so what we're going to do here is just go ahead and make a knot. And the drill holes are so tiny that it's okay that we have, we only use one knot. So I'm taking my pliers in here because I don't want to use my round nose pliers. And we're just getting that knot as close to the base of that bead as possible. I'm going to pull this as tight as I can. I feel like when I make knots in the cord itself with one strand, it holds pretty well. The reason why we had to do glue on this bead, this knot up here, is because it was using two strands. They sort of repel each other, is what I've kind of found out. And so after you've made the first one, we're going to make the long strand here. So we're comparing. Just ignore this one off to the side. And we're going to put in maybe a more round bead. And then we want to make sure that we're kind of getting the knot in the same place. So I kind of want my knot right here. And so when I make my knot and I pull the tail through, I want to put my pliers right at the place where I was pinching, and then you pull the knot tight. And before you do it super tight, let's get our knots beside one another. They are not going to be exact. Let's just get that out of the way. Just sit with that discomfort if you are OCD like me. And OCD, I'm talking like for real. So this is about as close as it's gonna get. And then we have our third nugget down at the bottom. So this is where we take the smaller one, our smaller nugget that we have identified out of the mix. And we have a knot placement of about right there. So I want to pinch that. At this point, I do make the knot. Pull it through. I take my pliers, go through the loop of the knot. I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller so that tail doesn't flop out. Gonna go through and then get onto the main cord here. And we want to adjust the knots based on, there we go. So I'm going to hold it there and pull it. So we're just adjusting the knots, how we kind of, and as you can see here, they are, actually that's pretty good. Actually, that's pretty good, y'all. But normally, if it was just a little bit more off, that's okay. That's okay. And so we pull this extra tight. We use our thumbnail. This is why I've grown out my nails just a little bit. I don't typically like to have any sort of nail, but I have found it useful in beading. So now we're going to move on to our short side. And we want these to be offset because when they lay, you want them to be laying comfortably, nestled. I don't know. You have to let me know. nuzzled. That sounds gross. I don't like that. But we're going to use the short side, and then we're going to pinch where we believe that the first knot should go. So right here, I'm pinching where I feel like the first knot should go. And again, don't sweat it if it's not exact. It's like your eyebrows, they're sisters, not twins, okay? And so I'm gonna make that loop. I'm gonna extend the tail a little bit through so it doesn't separate. I'm gonna hold my pliers at that pinch point. I'm gonna pull this down a little bit. So I have like a loose knot. Now I'm gonna take the other. That's pretty good. So I'm gonna tighten it. Okay. And then the next one. So we have our earring, and then our next one here is pretty short. There's not a whole lot of difference between the first and the second bead. And I did not glue these, but we're not doing that many beads either, so I'm gonna pinch this portion to create the knot. So we're just doing one little knot. And I'm putting my pliers through the loop and then pinching where I think the knot should stop. Before I go super tight on that knot, we want to put them together. And I swear I'm pretty good on this one. So these are pretty good. Like, I actually got pretty lucky. All right, so we have these long tails, and if it makes you feel better, go ahead and put some hypo cement on these knots. I'm gonna wear them out just to see how it wears, because I have a jewelry shop, right? I want to see if it's really necessary to put the hypo cement on the bottom knots. But what we are going to do now is cut our tails to about 1/4 inch on each side. A little bit longer. And then I have a needle here, and I will zoom you in. So for each tail, because it is a twisted nylon, you want to make sure, you know, you're like separating the threads. And I feel like this also gives a little bit of security to the knot, especially after the next step. So we have separated most of the fibers, and it also gives it like a little bit of a look. She's like, oh, she's brushed out, she's natural, she's at the beach. And now we have these fibers separated. So what I like to do here is like take half the fibers in my thumb, the other half in the other thumb, kind of pull it down a little bit. And then take our little baby Barbie doll brush, aka the needle, and brush them together once again, and to promote that neat look to it. We'll do the same with the other side. We are going to take apart the fibers. We are going to mess with the twist. And it's pretty easy. They are not like waxed or glued or anything like that. So you have that. You want to take half the fibers in one thumb, the half in the other. Pull them. And then brush them. So you just want to make sure that after you do that, that your tassels are matching up. So I will take the long side, and whatever's shorter, these are actually really similar. I'm like, am I on point today? Dang, it's a rare form when I'm on point. This one is a little bit longer, so I'm going to take my embroidery scissors and just trim it, give it a little haircut. But I will say they were pretty close. And so here you go with your Eslon knotted earrings. So earthy, so chic, so beautiful. And it's just another technique that you can add to your tool belt. So this is number 4. We'll just name this number 4. You guys, I am so happy with these designs just because they're just funky and weird and different. And so I probably will name this tutorial like weird, funky, asymmetric designs with the bargain bead box for this month. So don't forget to vote down below. I always like to see which designs are the favorites. It helps me tailor content to the channel to see what you like. And so this is number 1. Our little ginkgo earrings. This is number 2, our crystal asymmetrics. Number 3, our post earrings. And then number 4, our knotted Eslon earrings with the gemstones. So we got our earthy, we got our sparkly, we've got our strange, we've got our like our balancing ones. I think these 2 are like balancing earrings, and I think they lay really, really cute. They look a little different when just laying flat, but they look really, really cute on the ear. And then we had to use those stud components. And so I'm so excited to see what you guys think of these earrings. Please vote down in the comments below. I love hearing from you. It just brightens my day. So I hope you guys are staying safe and well, and stay tuned for the next Blitz, which will be the bracelet Blitz for this month's bargain bead box. Again, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Love y'all. Bye-bye.